Shove Voles are a very special critter in oxygen not included, and they are the best choice to ranch for meat and barbecue. In this video, I'll give a brief introduction about them and provide the best build for ranching them in the current game version that could sustain your entire colony easily with minimal feeding. If you are already familiar with voles and just want to know about the build, feel free to skip to the timestamps. Shove voles can be found on the surface if you're playing base game or in the classic mode of Spaced Out DLC. They also exist in the regolith asteroid, which is located in the outer rings. They have the special ability to burrow through most tiles and could be very annoying. But initially, they will be separated from your base by the abyssalite layer, which is one of the things that could restrict them. Before we try to catch the voles, we need to have a proper ranch to contain them. They cannot burrow through materials with at least 150 hardness, or metal tiles, or the most basic pneumatic doors. Therefore, I suggest to build a ranch like this, which would also be how our ranch layout look like later on. The voles will never be overcrowded or cramped like other critters, so we don't need a standard 96 tile stable. This little ranch will be enough to breed hundreds of voles. Now, after we break through the abyssalite border, the voles will have a chance to sneak into our base and cause random disasters. They could eat dirt, regolith, or iron ore, and excrete their food as a natural tile somewhere random. Having buildings randomly entombed could be very problematic, and blocking your dupe's path back to base could be even worse. I suggest to put a pneumatic door to replace the abyssalite once you open the border. The door could block the voles, but there's a chance they could excrete a tile on the door and then pass through the door via the tile. You can maybe put more doors to further decrease the chance of such mishaps. It can be annoying to actually catch the wild voles, as they will be roaming randomly inside the natural tiles. You can try to micro a bit and dig a few tiles of regolith nearby, so they would be baited to come out and eat. I would personally also use yellow alert and mark a big area to wrangle on the surface. This helps you track the number and the location of the uncaught voles. Yellow alert is generally not advised on normal jobs, and one of the reasons is they would assign unsuitable dupes for the task, like asking a cook on the far end of your base to do a building job. But for this case, dupes without ranching skill cannot catch the voles anyway, and only ranchers would be triggered by the yellow alert. Now, we put all the wrangle voles into the ranch we prepared, and we can start with the build. We will need to research the solid control technology and gain access to the conveyor meter. The conveyor meter is the key that makes this build stand out from others. Inside the ranch, we only need grooming stations and an auto sweeper for picking the meat from the voles. The food for the voles would be stored outside in storage bin, and it could be anything that they would eat because we will only be feeding a minimal amount. We deliver the food into the ranch with a conveyor loader and rails passing through the conveyor meter. The conveyor meter is set to 0.001 unit, which is 1 gram per second, and the only automation we need is to connect the 2 automation port of the conveyor meter, which will constantly reset the meter amount and allow it to pass through 1 gram of food infinitely. Finally, the rails will split into multiple branches, which help spread out the food and prevent one vole from eating them all. This 1 gram per second of food will be all we need to feed the entire vole ranch. And this would not only just keep their population, but even grow their numbers to over hundreds. We will still need ranchers to groom all the voles regularly, but beyond that, there are no more materials or effort needed. We also don't need additional separate breeding room. This room itself would do all the work and grow the vole population to feed your entire colony. It might sound a bit unbelievable, because this design is much more simpler and smaller than other builds you would see, but perform much better. But I will go through all the mechanics behind this design to explain why this is working. And in the background, I'll be playing the actual footage of the ranch, which I started from 5 initial voles. To prove the vole population with this build will actually increase in the long term, instead of going extinct, we have to answer a critical question. How many eggs would each vole lay before they die? A regular vole starts with about 43,000 kilocalories, and they will consume 4,800 kilocalories per cycle. Their reproduction rate is about 17% per cycle when happy and 2% per cycle when glum. Therefore, when they are groomed, their initial calories can keep them not starving for about 9 cycles, which converts to about 153% of reproduction, or 1.53 eggs. Let's call our bill USVR in short. Up to this part, the common starvation ranch and USVR perform similarly, but after their initial calories run out, they will be starving and their mood will turn to glum. A 10-cycle starvation countdown will start, indicating the voles will die after this 10 cycles if nothing is done. Now, the common starvation ranch voles will indeed die after 10 cycles, and they will not be able to lay a second egg. But for USVR, we have 1 gram of food dropping on the ranch every single second. Whenever a vole eats a gram of food, it has a chance to reset their starvation countdown back to 10 cycles. Their calories will still be 0 and will still be starving, but their lifespan will be prolonged and will be able to live their full 100 cycles. Therefore, for the rest of the 86 cycles, they will continue to reproduce at the rate of 2% per cycle as long as they are groomed. This allows them to gain an additional reproduction progress of 172%, or 1.72 eggs. Combined with the 1.53 eggs they will lay initially, this sums up to 3.25 eggs. In theory, every vole could lay 3 eggs before they die. That means their numbers will multiply and grow very fast. Now, not every vole could be groomed at the very first moment they need, so the actual progress would be less than that. Not all vole would be able to lay 3 eggs in practice, but the majority will at least lay 2 eggs. But there's another factor which complicates things, the Delecta Voles. They are a morph introduced in a 2022 game update, and they are the reason why the method of simple starvation ranching voles don't work anymore. They are born with about 20,000 kilocalories, or half of regular voles. This means they could only get a reproduction progress of about 76% before they starve, not even enough to lay a single egg. So, in a common starvation ranch, each Delecta Vole egg laid from a regular vole would eventually result in 1 less vole population because they are unable to propagate. And even if you try to create an environment that is least favorable for an egg to be Delecta Voles, they will still have at least 2% of chance to be laid. That's why many builds would add a breeder room, which actually feeds a vole to produce more eggs to make up for the loss from Delectas. But for our USVR, we don't have to worry at all, because even Delecta Voles can lay 2 eggs. This explains why we only have a single room instead of multiple separate rooms or a breeder room. All we have to do is prepare the room and the initial voles, the conveyor meter with some food, grooming station, and a rancher, and we can leave it to run. For the test I used to film this video, I started with 5 wild voles in the USVR. By cycle 63, their number has quadrupled to 20 voles, and by cycle 87, 30 voles. If I left it to run for about 100 more cycles, there will be 100, 200, or even more voles, which is what I use to feed my own duplicants in my actual colony. Now, there are still some questions to answer. First, how many ranchers or duplicant labor does this build require? The husbandry stats affects the duration of groomed effect. Assuming the duplicant has 10 husbandry, each groom will last for 2 cycles, and each grooming action takes 12 seconds, so in theory, a single rancher can handle 100 voles. If we consider the time duplicants spend moving, calling the voles, or on their own downtime, then 60 voles per duplicant would be my estimate. If you ever want more voles, just make more ranchers, or wait for the duplicant to level up their own husbandry skills over time. Second question, how many duplicants can we feed? We can estimate like this. Suppose we end up with an equilibrium of 200 voles, then every 100 cycles, 200 voles will die, and 200 new voles will be born. Therefore, every cycle we can expect to have 2 voles turn into meat. which is 32,000 kilocalories of meat, or 40,000 in terms of barbecue. Considering a part of them might be Delectas, which gives less meat, I would say 36,000 kilocalories of barbecue is fair. So we could feed a colony with 36 duplicants with only duplicant labor, but with no practical material cost. Why do I say no practical material cost? This is the third question you might have. We dump 600 grams of food into the ranch per cycle for feeding. 1 ton of regolith would be enough to feed them for 1,600 cycles. But a duplicant using an outhouse and recycled into a compost would generate 6.7 kilograms of dirt per cycle. This means we can afford to make 10 USVR with the poop from one single duplicant. Fourth question, is every vole guaranteed to live 100 cycles without starving to death? This one is tricky. Due to RNG, they do have a little chance to die to starvation, especially when the vole count is high. Imagine 200 voles racing for food. It is totally possible a vole don't get a chance for 10 cycles at all. But overall, the population will still grow rapidly, and the deaths can be neglected. The final question is, do we need Robo miners to deal with the vole excretion? No, they need to eat over 1.2 tons of food before excreting. With our minimal feeding, they will never ever eat enough to excrete anything. The USVR is a simple but powerful build as a food solution, feeding almost nothing but generating much more food even than other builds that actually feed them. I would strongly recommend it for your colony. But the mechanics could be confusing. If there is anything you want to discuss, please leave them in the comments. If you like the tutorial, you can subscribe for more videos or support me by joining channel membership. Thanks for watching!